Welcome all you late night Zelda fans to another Link to the Past Randomizer Tournament race. We have two very experienced runners here tonight, Walking Eye and Joey Mittens. My name's Cobb La La La, but you can call me Cobb. So this tournament, as you may know, is a little different than before. We have bombs at Uncle. This is the toughest start that there is. It's a lot of fun to watch. Let's see if our runners have practiced a bomb opening. If not, it could get interesting. They're all hoping for a sword or some other weapon from one of these other chests in Escape. They didn't find one in the first one. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Joey Mittens' sprite is Battletoad. Oh no, it's Frog from Chrono Trigger. My mistake. Okay, and both runners have practiced the bomb opening because both of them very smooth. Joey Mittens is a little low on health, but he does have a health pot coming up that he can grab, not an issue. Walking Eye having a little trouble with the second room, but looks like he's got it under control. Oh, but he takes a death. Oh, that is a rough place to take a death because he's going to start back at the entrance to the castle. Cyclone, I know that one of them was a half heart, but they haven't picked up anything of value yet. So Walking Eye is going to make his way back in. Joey Mittens is going to make pretty quick work of the ball and chain guard. 2 pots to the face will do it. Now, he does get a heart in Zelda's chest, which is pretty helpful in the bomb opening, because a lot of times with this next rat, what you're going to want to do is drop the bomb, pick it up, and try and stay with the rat and just take the hit. Alright, so Walking Eye on his second attempt in this room. He got one bomb. And he got the second. Okay, so he's through that room. He's going to have some health pots coming up shortly here. They also will likely have to take some damage along the way from some of the snakes that you just can't avoid. They're just going to have to kind of face tank them. They both have healthy amount of bombs, though. I did not see it, but they must have picked up some bombs along the way, because Joey should have at least used, it would be 5 bombs at this point. We are working on the audio right now. I apologize for that. All right, so let's see what's in the back of the. Oh, we got gloves. That's a nice start. So gloves are one of 3 items you need for Dark World access. You either need 2 sets of gloves and the Moon Pearl, or gloves and hammer and Moon Pearl. Ooh, and the mirror, early mirror is always nice. Gives you a lot of options to quicken your routing. Allows you not to have to skip items like Cave 45, other things like that. We are working out some technical difficulties. Alright, so the first prize pack from the tree pull looks like 5 rupees. Ooh, and the crab is dropping some bombs today. That's always nice. Always a nice little gift. Looks like Joey's going to take a peek at what's on Lumberjack Ledge. And it's just +5 arrows. So unless our runners need Dark World access, or right side Dark World access, probably unlikely we're going to see Agana. And we have the single rupee. I think Joey's fishing for some rupees to make sure that he can buy all the things that he desires in Kakariko Village. Ooh, and we have a Moon Pearl. We almost have Dark World access right here in Kakariko Village, which is interesting in V29 because that's not uncommon, and you'll see runners go straight into the Dark World before even going like down to Mini Moldorm Cave, anything like that. So we might get a very early Dark World peak if they pick up the hammer or another set of gloves. Ooh, Joey Mittens just found the flute in a very opportune location. He'll be able to activate it while here. I can like sing the music for you guys if you want. Just kidding, I'm not going to do that. Ooh, and Joey Mittens with kind of threw that chicken right into the wall. It's a nice little glitch that doesn't really do anything for you other than looks fun. So Joey's going to activate his flute. This will actually make his next move a lot quicker, which will likely be to drain the swamp and mini Moldorm. He'll be able to flute there rather than save and quit and walk down there. Ooh, early bow. Joey finds an early bow in the back of the bar. Now, to my knowledge, we haven't gotten a map check, but if Eastern is a crystal dungeon, we may see a very early crystal in this seed. With the items they have, it'll be a little hard to navigate the dark rooms, but if they're experienced, they could use arrows from a bow to kind of guide them as to where they are. Oh, and we got a little bit of quack at the under the swamp. Oh, and it looks like we're now joined by CDV. Welcome, my friend.
Good evening. Apologies for my tardiness. I hope you've been holding the fort in my absence. I'm thanks for doing it solo for a little bit. Sorry about that.
Not a problem, my friend. Yep, looks like Walking Eye is going to skip the southern route, and he's going to go right to It's late. We'll just call him Shahabadu right now because it's late for me.
Yeah, we're about to see what's in Saccharin's hut here in just a few moments. Meanwhile, it looks like Joey Mittens is having a little bit of difficulty tossing some pyrotechnics at those mini Moldorms, but he's going to be getting the contents of the hideout here right now.
Ooh, that's interesting. So he gets the Titan's mitts. So he now has Dark World access through to the Village of Outcasts. Let's see how soon he does that.
So I'm literally just now, I have not had the opportunity to seed. Have we had any other major variations, or has it been a pretty standard early game so far?
Really, the only major variation is that Walking Eye skipped the southern route and went straight to Eastern. He hasn't found anything, though, whereas Joey found the Titan Smiths.
Wow, 15 minutes in, we have Joey Mittens already checking the Mire locations, and it looks like we have all Light World crystals as well, so that could definitely lead to a fast seed here. And we have the Canis Samaria in the Mire shed as well, so Joey Mittens has got his Canis Samaria in the 15th minute of play. It looks like we have a Dark World check. We have Skull as a red crystal, as Mire as the other red crystal. Your pendants, green pendant is at Ice, and the blue pendant is at Swamp Palace, and the red pendant at Thieves Town. So with Mire and Totorock both being crystals, that does not, even though we had all Light World crystals, it looks like all the major items will still need to be collected, despite having all those Light World crystals. And, just a piece of heart at the checkerboard cave. Joy Mittens forgoes that item choice.
You know, I'm a big fan of Early King because that's one of those items that it opens so few locations, yet it's usually required, that I like to find it when I don't have the whole world to check for it.
Absolutely, you can lump in the ice rod in that set as well, which they will also be looking for. Not surprising that they don't have that in the 17th minute of play, but it's something they're going to be eventually needing. Meanwhile, we see walkingeye traversing through Eastern Palace here, picking up that big key, so he'll be able to go ahead and thread the check of the big chest on his way through this dungeon. No bow and no lamp, so at this point he would not be able to full clear it, but it looks like we have a heart container there in that big chest. I'm not sure if that's 3 items or if these, looks like it is not, as he has not saved and quit, and will be on his way to the vanilla big key chest. Meanwhile, Joey Mittens on the other side of your screen, now entering Desert Palace, as he was able to access it with the Titans, Mitts, and Mire.
Yeah, you know, this seed is already showing how much variation there is in Randomizer, because these are not things that you typically see this early on in a Randomizer match.
Yeah, definitely not. This seed blowing wide open from the get-go. Some seeds you see little to no variation up to 30 to 45 minutes in, but this one we've got some definite divergence here in the early stages.
Absolutely. Now, coming up on the Trudge to Armos nights, walkingeye might be able to do it, but without a sword, that dark room is pretty difficult.
Has he collected the bow? I see Joey has collected the bow. Has walkingeye done so as well?
Yes, he did. It was in the bar in Kakariko.
Okay, looks like we got our tracker getting that updated. Thank you very much. And it looks like we have Joey now, after getting Desert Palace items without a fire source, would not be able to complete it, so he is fluted to Death Mountain in the meantime. And we'll see if he can, having to use the bow to track his progress in the dark while he's trying to get the old man escorted to his appropriate location here. Meanwhile, walkingeye doing similar dark room shenanigans in the Eastern Palace in the room prior to ascending to the 2nd floor.
That was a really impressive dark room, because at least in my opinion, that's probably in the top 3 hardest dark rooms in this game.
Yeah, it's certainly into discussion, especially if things go off script and that Igor starts going out of his original location. At that point, it's just it's literally a shot in the dark at that point. Meanwhile, walkingeye is 2 rooms away from facing his Armos Knights, and we have Joey Mittens here going to be checking the western Death Mount location, Spectacle Rock and the Spectacle Rock Cave shortly.
Yep, we'll also probably see a little bit of early Hera.
Absolutely. Good to get that crystal out of the way.
So he'll be hoping to find the hammer up there, because that'll lead him to East Side Death Mountain really quickly, not having to ascend again.
Yeah, hammer or a hook shot, and it looks like whatever was in Spectacle Rock Cave, I was not able to tell. It certainly seems to be worth Joey Mittens' time, whatever it is. walkingeye successfully defeating the Armos Knights, and will get his first crystal of this match. Meanwhile, Joey Mittens electing to get the mushroom from Spectral Rock Cave. He'll be able to quickly flute to position 2 and get that checked if he so chooses to do so.
Yeah, it looks like, I think he's going to go check the shovel location and then probably flute, just like he said, and check the mushroom. Or, I wonder if he's, oh, he doesn't have the hammer, but he actually could route fake powder through the dark world.
Yeah, that's certainly an option for him, for sure. But yeah, it would make a lot of sense for Joey to get rid of the fetch quest red herrings out of the way in one fell swoop. So it looks like he is fluting. Let's see where he decides to go. It is indeed position number 2, so he's going to be turning in that mushroom post haste.
Looks like Walking Eye's about to get his Titan's mitts. And not much else in Mini Moldorm Cave.
Walking Eye electing to save his arrows and will be throwing bombs similar to what Joey Mittens did, and it looks like that last Mini Moldorm being a little bit elusive, and there he goes. So he'll be able to collect the quintet of items here, which we have the piece of heart container, and the highlight of this room, the Titan's mitt. So there's Walking Eye tying up the glove situation with Joey Mittens here, 21 and a half minutes in.
Yeah, it actually kind of looks like right now they're kind of doing the things that the other did. I wonder if Walking Eye is going to go check Ice Rod Cave.
Certainly could with the flute. You could quickly go to position 8 and go from there. But it looks like Walking Eye is going to utilize his Titan's mitts right away and go into. No, he's not going to. He's going to Mire instead, and or no, Desert Palace rather. So it looks like. Rather, no, he's just checking the ledge and then is going to go into Mire. Or no, wow, he's just throwing me off all over the place. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking.
I think he hit the D-pad left 1 too few times. I think he's going to 6. Yeah, that was his intent.
Okay, there we go. And should Walking Eye go ahead and check the shed, he'll be also rewarded with the Cane of Samaria like Joey did about 5 to 10 minutes ago. Walking Eye getting his Dark World dungeon check in. He'll see what we saw previously. Your red crystals again, Skull and Mire. Green pendant is Ice Palace. Your other 2 pendants are Thieves Town and Swamp Palace.
You know, I don't know about you. I always get bad feelings when I see a pendant Swamp Palace, because I got the feeling I'm going to have to go in there anyways.
It is definitely a possibility with 6 items there. You definitely would rather not have to do that, but anyone that has played enough V29 seeds know that is certainly in the cards, potentially. We did see that Bombos is the required medallion for Mire from Walking Eye's perspective here. And it looks like Walking Eye will be going to check the checkerboard cave and see the heart piece there momentarily. Meanwhile, Joey Mittens is en route to completing his Eastern Palace, similar to what Walking Eye did previously, as was previously mentioned. So yeah, it really is a situation where both runners are doing the same thing, just in different orders from each other. They're really just going to be on the lookout for that key progression item here, whatever it may be. Hammer is certainly would be preferred right now, as would the hook shot. Both of those would definitely open up a ton of the Dark World that is currently inaccessible to them, or not conveniently accessible at this time.
Right, you know, but at the same time, there is a lot of things that they can do. We have not seen Village of Outcasts yet. We have not seen Skull Woods. And considering they have the Titan's mitts and the Mire, they very likely could do a Village of Outcasts check and then route the frog and the lunchbox all the way down, grab a whole bunch of items, including Hype Cave.
Absolutely, and it looks like Walking Eye may be doing just that here. It looks like he's going to go ahead and do a preliminary Skullwoods check, though, prior to doing any further Village of Outcasts clearing. We'll see if that leads to any sort of advantage for him, or if it just ends up being diversion for him.
You know, that's a very popular move, and I think it's a good move, because this check, even without the boots, takes a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and now he's got the powder.
Yep, that's one of the two items here right there, which if he happens to find a hammer, there's the magic bat right there. So yeah, I have absolutely no problem with this whatsoever. This is a required dungeon, so you're going to have to do this anyway. And with Skull Woods being as segmented as it is, you can definitely just check the front side, get whatever you can, and back into the Village of Outcasts, and you can just pick up right where you left off whenever you decide to come back here, preferably when you have a fire rod in your possession.
I see someone in chat asking about Ice Cave. No, both runners elected to skip out on Ice Cave, which could work to their favor because it is a little out of the way, or it could hurt them. I'm not sure the exact numbers in this version, but in past versions, it has been as high as 17% progress for having a progression item. So it's a valuable location, and we have the flippers in Skullwoods as well.
So powder and flippers are your Skullwoods items. So he has cleared this dungeon. As far as the items are concerned, of course, he does not have the means to get to Mothula, but he will. That's all he'll be needing to do whenever Walking Eye decides to come back here again. Once he has the ability to get that done and dusted, it looks like now he'll be heading back south. No, he's going to go ahead and check Bumper Cave and perhaps go ahead and get rid of the northern Dark World location since he has the Mire. Does not have boots, so King's Tomb is still out of the way. And I didn't catch what was on Bumper Cave. Did you happen to catch that?
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't a value. I actually thought that here he might go and do the northern route, and he has Zora money. You know, he could get 5 or 6 items there, but you know, there's definitely more than 10 items on the path that he's taking now.
Absolutely. Here we have a Sea House check, just 20 rupees. So he'll be moving on to other locations in this high density area for item checks. You could definitely justify going into Thieves Town and at least picking up the first 4 items. He does open up the entrance, but is not going in there just yet, electing to bomb out the bomb hut. Looks like it'll take 2 bombs to do that, but maybe he'll be going into Thieves Town after this check.
You know, I really like that pull right there, because if you have any plans to do it, you have to go that way. And it throws you backwards and towards his next destination. So I think it's a really smart move to do right there.
And let's see what the chess game rewards Walking Eye with the Ice Rod. So hey, there's that Ice Rod and Cane of Samaria, 2 required items. Ice Rod definitely being required with Turtle Rock as a crystal. So that's a load off his shoulders right there. It doesn't really open up any options for him as far as additional items, but that's not really a problem for him right now, as he has plenty of options available to him already.
Now, we are 28 minutes into this seed, and we have already found all 3 troll items in the bow, the ice rod, and the cane of Samaria.
Don't let your guard down, though. Even though it's not going to be trolly in that respect, it very well may be trolly in a way that we are not foreseeing here. I may be scarred by some rather cruel seeds that I've experienced recently, but I don't give this version of the randomizer any credit for being kind until I'm basically at the Triforce room. So,
Right. I totally hear you there.
All right, so Walking Eye collecting the obligatory big key in this quartet of opening chests, and looks like he will be mirroring out, no deciding, or is he not? It looks like Walking Eye is going to go ahead and dive deeper into Thieves Town. I believe he got a maximum of 2 items, likely just the 1. And Walking Eye not satisfied with that. We'll see if Joey Mittens elects to do the same thing, or if he does a quick escape after collecting his first 4 items.
Now, I understand Walking Eye's sentiment. I do like finishing Thieves Town if it's a pendant, if I only get 2 items. My only concern here is that without the hammer, one of those items could be locked.
Absolutely. There is the possibility of the small key leading into that room to be in that big key chest, but there is an even greater possibility that Walking Eye may be walking out of here with one item left to go in this dungeon. But that remains to be seen here, as he is going to be doing the necessary progression here to bomb this area to reveal blind. And it looks like Joey Mittens will elect to just take the first 4 locations and be done with Thieves Town for the time being. Walking Eye collecting a piece of heart in that bomb room. And we see Joey Mittens here is going to take part in the digging game here in just a few moments. We'll see how many digs it will take to reveal the item location. And it looks like 2 is all it'll need for a piece of heart, which Joey will look at briefly and say no thank you, moving on to other locations in Southern Dark World. Or no, of course, why would he do that when he has the opportunity to go ahead and get the blacksmith side quest sorted before committing to that pathing?
Now, I believe that Joey Mittens has... Did he go to Skullwoods? No, he did not go to Skullwoods, but he does have the mushroom.
It appears to be the case here. I don't believe he's taken the time to turn it in as of yet, but it certainly that seems to be the case here. And we see the blacksmiths providing a heart container for Joey's services, and it looks like Walking Eye is also going to be right behind Joey Mittens in the digging game, and presumably the blacksmiths leading into the purple chest.
Okay, so Joey Mittens had an opportunity here to mirror to the light world beyond the hammer peg and do a trick called fake powder on the magic bat, where you basically trick the magic or the game into thinking you're using the powder when you're really not. The only problem with that is he would have had to give up his Dark World access to do so.
Right, and that so it may be Joey was not aware. It is a little bit of a kind of a obscure trick. So it's either Joey was just not aware of that, or did not want to sacrifice his Dark World holder here, electing rather to go through the southwestern locations, both light and dark. We'll see another heart container for Joey Mittens in what is known as Cave 45. Joey electing to collect that heart upgrade, and we'll be proceeding to Hype Cave and a purple chest turn in.
Let's see if Walking Eye gives us a look at the magic bat, because he does have powder, and it looks like he is.
Yep, Walking Eye will be going to and providing the magic bat with what he is expecting. No trickeration from Walking Eye here. He's going to give a little bit of a sprinkle onto the this bat here, and let's see what he provides for that right now. And it is the fire rod. That is huge.
That is so big. Oh, wow.
So Walking Eye will still probably go ahead and complete this purple chest errand, but shortly thereafter he could absolutely go ahead and complete what he started at Skullwoods.
Right, and that's randomizer logic for you. You got to go to Skullwoods to get the powder, to be able to get the fire rod, to be able to finish Skullwoods.
Meanwhile, Joey Mittens at Hype Cave, getting pretty much nothing more than the cape from the first location there. He'll now be routing his way back down towards the purple chest recipient here in just a few screen transitions.
Yep, so Walking Eye is going to take the same traditional route as you said. Another option that he had, those northern locations, Graveyard Ledge and Catfish, they're hard to find a way to route. I did learn the other day that the lunchbox does float, so he could have taken those all the way up to Catfish and Zora, and then save a quit.
Oh wow, yeah, that's yeah, definitely. Depending on some loadouts, that routing those locations, including the pyramid ledge, can get thrown into that array as well. It can be very awkward trying to find an appropriate time to thread those in, and which can only lead to frustration when items such as like the lamp, like I experienced in my first round seed, is on the pyramid ledge, which you fail to check for at least an hour plus.
Isn't that the worst feeling in the world when you leave one of those locations out because it's inconvenient, but then it's worth?
That's one way to put it for sure. It looks like Joey Mittens will be heading back to Death Mountain here. Let's see what he elects to do here. Has he checked the western portions at this time? I don't recall. If he has, he may just now be content with getting a Tower of Hera now that he has a weapon to actually damage Moldorm. Meanwhile, Walking Eye on the left side of your screen there, and getting his hype cave cleared. We'll be following that up with a purple chest turn-in. Well, he will be receiving his first sword. Joey Mittens getting his sword from that purple chest around the 35th minute. I had failed to realize that both of these players were swordless, and it looks like we have the red male will be at the ether position at ether tablet. So if these guys want to get some additional armor in their hands, it will be at ether tablet.
Unless it becomes convenient for them to get, both of these runners, I believe, have the experience that they might just pass on that.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me at all, but especially now that Joey will be clearing Tower of Hera, it's hard to envision a scenario where he'd be back at this part of Death Mountain. So we may just be seeing a Frog here in the blue clothes for the remainder of this seed, however long that may take.
So now Joey Mittens is going up here without the fire rod. He hasn't found that yet. And so if there's an item in Hera Basement, then that can be problematic because he's going to be leaving that behind unless he finds the lamp here.
Absolutely. That is still a very strong possibility here. We'll see if we can determine where these Hera locations are to see if the basement will come into play or if it can be skipped, which certainly would be preferred by Joey at this point to avoid a potential double dip into Hera.
Yep, and once you pass on that basement, oh geez, it takes forever to go back. Ooh, looks like we had a little bit of lag, but what just happened there was Joey was fighting Moldorm, and he fell through the center ring. That's really the only way that you can fall down those two stories.
Yeah, either that or he may have been attempting to bomb jump to the big chest. Again, I could not tell what caused to that fall, but it's definitely set Joey Mittens back a couple, around 30 to 60 seconds likely. Meanwhile, Walking Eye will be mirroring to do a hobo check, it looks like.
I really like that routing in of hobo. It's not commonly known as a routing option, but it's really a good way to save time because hobo's kind of out of the way.
Absolutely. We have Joey Mittens getting the Master Sword out of the Tower of Hera. Now, I have not been able to see the other locations here, so I'm not sure if that is the second of the two or if he is still desperately hoping that Moldorm has the final item. because at this juncture, he would be locked out of the tower basement, as we previously discussed, as he does not have the means of setting anything on fire. It looks like we will have a pyramid check as well from Walking Eye here. See what the ledge has in store.
So looks like Joey Mittens only has the map. So either Moldorm's going to be a compass, and there's something in the basement, or the basement is the compass.
We will have the answer to that here momentarily with Moldorm defeated, and it is the compass. So it does look like there is one remaining item in the Hera basement. While Joey Mittens could go down there, he does not have the means of lighting the 4 torches to reveal that chest. So Joey Mittens is going to hope against all hope that that item is irrelevant, but that will remain a mystery for the time being.
Oh, that basement has been the death to many a great runner. I remember in the last tournament, a match between Christos and Ben. Ben lost a match because he didn't get that item, and it was a progression item.
Meanwhile, we've got a set of 3 bombs from the Catfish offered to Walking Eye, and it looks like Walking Eye will now also take care of the waterfall locations and probably go ahead and pay off King Zora as well.
So these runners have both proven that they can do dark rooms. So I wonder if Walking Eye, rather than saving and quitting, is going to go back, get his portal, and go down into Pod. Because he can get all of the items, not in logic, but he can get all the items other than Helmasaur.
That is certainly an option available to Walking Eye. And yeah, you would think with what he's demonstrated so far that he would be able to navigate the darkened rooms, but whether he decides to commit that amount of time to get there. King Zora with a worthwhile investment of that 500, getting the silver arrows for Walking Eye. So that is a major find for Walking Eye. We'll see how long it takes for Joey Mittens to go and give King Zora his proper dues. So it looks like Joey Mittens checked the graveyard ledge. However, I was unable to determine the contents, as it looks like we had a little bit of a hiccup in his stream. So we'll have to see if we can determine what on that from Walking Eye's perspective at some point.
So it looks like Joey may now be going to Skull Woods, and he's going to be unhappy when he finds the flippers there, because he's not going to be able to route in Zora like Walking Eye did.
Absolutely, and Joey will also be finding the magic powder. Meanwhile, Walking Eye also going back to Skull Woods for his second trip, as he has collected the fire rod and will now be able to access Mothula and get the crystal that Skull Woods has as its reward. So interesting that both runners are at the same location but at different phases of the Skullwood completion.
I'm actually a little surprised that Walking Eye is doing this now. With Desert being a crystal, it's likely we're going to get boots at some point. Maybe he wants to do a pedestal check, and that's the main reason that he's going to do this. Because otherwise, he could come back a little later when he's got a better sword.
Absolutely. Mothula with just the fighter sword and just your standard fill of magic here. He is going to be testing the limits of his magic here, as he is still on just under half magic. But he will be picking up the magic pots on the way, and hopefully we'll have enough to get through that hallway and proceed on to the Mothula fight. He will not have a lot of fire rod shots left, but let's see how well he does with his limited resources. Walking Eye wisely waiting for that Wall Master to get out of the way as to avoid having to expend an additional Fire Rod shot there. Getting the bunny treatment, though, so he'll need to either take damage or wait out that bunny period. It looks like he is unbunnified and will be heading straight to Mothula to get this hopefully done in one go.
So it looks like he's going to have about 6 shots. If he were to land all of them, I believe that then he would need 2 sword spins.
We'll see how the spikes play for Walking Eye. Releasing the B, I do not believe is that
strats.
Okay.
The B is one of the few, or Mothula is the only boss that the B will damage.
All right, so Walking Eye on 5.5 hearts. He's got to avoid those random spike launches here, as well as Mothula and his projectile attacks here. Let's see if he can there he goes. Walking Eye, very nicely done. Taking care of Mothula with some wise Fire Rod shots and just the Fighter Sword. Very nicely done.
Meanwhile, Joey Mittens now has his Fire Source. So let's see where he goes from there.
Yep, Joey collecting his Fire Rod. Let's see if he decides to put that to immediate use. Or if he decides to go elsewhere at this point. I'd be curious to see how long it takes for either, for Joey Mittens, especially with his Master Sword, to check Ice Palace now that he has Fire Rod, Flippers, and... however, without the hammer, though, that would not be a good idea. Now that I'm actually paying attention to his loadout here, he is still hammer locked. That is really that seems to be the item of the day here. It's where will this hammer be and who will find it first is probably going to be a huge factor in who takes this match.
Absolutely, because assuming that Desert doesn't need the boots, we're really at least for runners of this skill level, we're only a hammer and a hook shot away, because neither of them are going to consider the lamp a go mode item. They're just going to use it to kind of let the logic guide them.
All right, we see Joey Mittens doing what Walking Eye did just a few moments previous in going into a skull here to take out Mothula. He will have the luxury of the Master Sword versus Walking Eye, who just had the level 1 sword at his disposal. So that might help Joey dispatch Mothula with a little bit speedier than what Walking Eye had at the time.
Yep, the Master Sword does the same damage that the Fire Rod does, so it's going to be a combination of 7 hits between the Fire Rod and the Master Sword on Mothula.
Interesting, Walking Eye identifying the mushroom, but electing to not collect it right away. Maybe waiting to thread that in after doing what he can in the Tower of Hera. Walking Eye would have the ability to complete the basement, which he will likely do after dispatching Moldorm as well. So we may see if Joey is going to be regretting going to Hera when he did without the requisite fire source.
Yeah, I mean, if that hammer's down there, they're in trouble. Because Ice Palace isn't going to do much for them once they find the hammer, because the hook shot is actually considered a required item for the right side because bomb jumps are not in logic.
Absolutely. It's nice to be able to do them and be able to do minor sequence breaks, but the logic definitely does not account for that being in your skill set. So we'll see. We have Joey Mittens now entering the Mothula fight. We'll see how well he navigates these spikes and Mothula itself. Looks like some well-timed fire rod shots here, doing a lot of damage to Mothula here, and Mothula should be going down here in just a few moments. And there he goes, Joey Mittens dispatching Mothula, and we'll be now done with Skull Woods here. Did we actually see a pedestal check from Walking Eye? Did we? I'm not recalling that at the moment.
We did it. I don't know if we could see what it was, though. I think we had a little pause in the action at that time.
We'll see if we get lucky enough to catch those valuable frames. We have Joey will be checking pedestal right now, and let's see if we can get an idea of what those contents are. Maximum health increase, yeah! All right, so we will not be having a pedestal seed. Sorry, guys. Pedestal likely not going to be checked by either of these runners now that they know what is in store for them. Meanwhile, Walking Eye taking care of Moldorm, and he will likely be descending to the basement with his fire rod in tow. And we do have an ice rod check from Joey Mittens here. Let's see what item is here. I believe this is the first ice rod check from either runner. And just a piece of heart. So while we have Walking Eye doing this necessary tile room and Joey Mittens swimming, I'd like to volunteer to give both of these runners a follow if you wish to see these guys do more randomizer seeds here. These guys are certainly skilled enough to be worth your time and follow. So feel free to give these guys a follow if you so wish to see what these guys do in the future. And it looks like we just have a bottle with a green potion in it, so not a huge loss there for Joey Mittens, but again, he does not know that. We'll see if Joey decides to go back there at some point if he gets desperate enough.
So Walking Eye, by not checking this tablet before going into Hera, he's going to get the red mail just in the course of checking it.
Indeed, and that will be a slight advantage. That's technically correct. It does save you a menu when going from Spectacle Rock to Hera, when you have the option of doing the Ether check and Hera at the same time, since you'll have the Mire already equipped, you'll have the Mire already loaded for you when you enter Hera. So it does save you a menu. It's a very minor time save, but still a save all the same. And we do see Walking Eye is going to go ahead and collect the mushroom on his way out of Death Mountain, and will be saved. It looks like he will save and quit and go elsewhere, perhaps immediately checking that mushroom spot. And we have Joey taking a stroll to King Zora here. He will be quite pleased to receive the silver arrows from him in just a few moments.
Oh, and it looks like we have some audio coming in.
Yep, it looks like we do have Walking Eye's audio now at our disposal, so nice to have that wonderful soundtrack playing once again. And Walking Eye taking this opportunity to get a blue pot and the 20 rupees as well. And let's see where Walking Eye decides to go from here, as well as Joey Mittens, who is saving and quitting after collecting Zora's bounty.
Looks like Walking Eye's going to check Desert, because he's already checked this Dark World area. and he can't get into Mire. Nor could he progress past the first room because you need the boots or the hook shot for that. And while bomb jumps are not in the logic, boots are. So boots can be the required item to get into Mire.
And we'll see if boots are required for Desert Palace. And it looks like they are, with the big key sitting up there on that torch, just taunting walkingeye for his lack of a dash ability to knock that down. We'll see if we can find the small key to get at least the 2 right side items checks, which we do. And we'll see if those have any of the 2 items in this dungeon. Meanwhile, on our other player's perspective, we have Joey Mittens going to progress further into Thieves Town. He will find himself in a similar position to Walkingeye, though, without the hammer. Looks like he will be also leaving a chest behind. So that will mean he will have Hera and Thieves Town with potential items. That's going to plant some significant seeds of doubt if the magic hammer and any other necessary items remain as elusive as they are currently being.
So what do you think about hammer in first chest of swamp?
Yeah, that would be particularly mean. There was a seed that I actually ran through this morning, which had the hammer in pendant ice, which I thought was particularly mean at the time, but it could be an ice palace for all we know as well. So, yeah, first chest swamp, that is quite possibly the absolute last location you would want to check the hammer in, as that is quite a time investment for a dungeon access of which you presumably have only access to 1 item at that time, if any other item is at that location but the hammer.
I find it very interesting that no runners checked pod yet. I mean, it's pretty far out of the way, but they do have the bow. So a good number of the chests are in the logic. Yes, they don't have the lamp, but I tend to assume that the lamp is just accessible and in. I mean, because the lamp is going to be accessible to them at this point, most likely. Not definitely, but most likely.
Well, Walkingeye is going in the right direction for a pod check. We'll see if he continues on after checking Graveyard Ledge here. He would just need to take a dip and jump right back out and head south towards the pyramid. We'll see if he decides to go that route here. And we do have a heart container at the Graveyard Ledge spot. Walkingeye electing to skip that with the red mail and 12 hearts. I do not disagree with that at all. He has more than enough health here to comfortably complete this seed.
Absolutely. So I believe that he's going to go do his Zora check that we saw Joey Mittens do.
Well,
that was him that did that, huh?
Yeah, Walkingeye has silver arrows. King Zora has been paid off from Walkingeye, and he does appear to be heading south. So maybe we'll see a pod check momentarily here from Walkingeye.
So no one has checked King's Tomb yet because the King's Tomb does require the boots to get into, because you have to dash into the tombstone.
Or at the very least have the dash button pushed down as you're pushing against it as well. But yeah, regardless, boots are a definitive requirement, which is why King's Tomb's contents still remain a mystery. Meanwhile, we have Joey Mittens going back up. Is he going to go ahead and get that Tower of Hera cleared out now with the fire rod?
Really, that's the only thing that I could see him doing out of this. He really doesn't have any other options with that.
Yeah, the only other thing would be Spike Cave, but without the hammer, that is certainly not going to be in the cards for Joey at this time. This is quite ambitious, and maybe just a sign rather of how desperate these runners are, willing to go this far out of the way for just one remaining item. Joey will be disappointed to learn that this is just a bottle with green potion inside. So this is quite a gamble that is not going to pay off in Joey's favor, unfortunately.
Well, I can completely understand why, because Pod's really got to have something, because as I'm thinking about it, you have 2 chests that you can access in ice. You have 1 chest in swamp. You have the ether tablet. And that's about it.
Yeah, it's certainly going down to scraping the bottom of the proverbial barrel here for both of these runners. Walking Eye has definitely the potential of finding some items here in Pod. I can't fault Joey, absolutely not. I mean, like you want to get those. You want to have the peace of mind knowing that you've completely cleared a location. It's really just a consequence of his routing and how the seed more or less responded to that routing.
So I know we have a lot of new viewers this tournament that are new to Randomizer. Please, this is a very friendly community. Feel free to ask any question, even if you think it's very basic. We're always happy to answer questions.
Absolutely. Every single one of these runners, myself absolutely included, had to start somewhere, and there is absolutely no problem in throwing out a question. I have learned so much just in watching the small handful of games I have. So there's never a point where you stop learning. Randomizer.
Yep, and I find it amazing that a game that is, 26 years old, they are still finding new glitches. There is a new glitch here in Pod that involves a pot that was found a couple weeks ago. It's 26 years old.
This is truly a game that just keeps on giving. There we have the hammer for Walking Eye in that location of Pod. So that is certainly a huge weight off Walking Eye's shoulders here. Meanwhile, Joey is going to go ahead and take a dive into Ice Palace. He will not be able to fully clear it, as we know that the required hammer to access Cold Stare is in a completely different dungeon. So with that hammer, Walking Eye can take care of Pod in just this one single trip. He will be navigating the maze in the dark here, but it looks like that is not going to cause him that much difficulty whatsoever, as it looks like he is traversing this maze quite splendidly. And meanwhile, in the first location for Joey, we have 20 rupees. So that's one of 3 items discovered in Ice Palace. Meanwhile, Walking Eye collecting the locations in the dark maze here. Difficult to determine what exactly he got out of there. It doesn't appear to be anything of any particular value, as we could not tell in the dark what those items were.
That's a nice little variation on the Stalfos room that I haven't seen before. He was able to grab a couple other things that he wanted and still get the 1 bomb kill on the Stalfos.
It looks like Joey has set himself up for the Ice Palace bomb jump here. Let's see if he can get the Y positioning. No, he looks like he was not able to get that positioning. It looks like
he had it, and then he stepped off it.
All right, so attempt number 3 here. Let's see. There we go. Very nicely done from Joey there, and that will allow him to traverse further into Ice Palace. Now that the switch has been manipulated as such, he could drop down and face Cold Stare if he had the hammer to access him, but unfortunately that is not the case at this moment for him. Meanwhile, Walking Eye's Link was absolutely transfixed with that moving wall. And let's see if Walking Eye can navigate these last few rooms here. With the fire rod in his possession, he will be able to turn on the lights to take out the turtles with a few hammer pounds and sword slashes.
Oh, he's gonna. Oh, I thought he was gonna swag it.
It looks like Joey Mittens has had his fill of Ice Palace, getting out of there after checking the Freezor room, and we'll be on to other locations here. Where he goes, we will soon find out. It's really just going to factor in whenever Joey decides to route in a pod check, as that seems to be the major roadblock at this point. Pod containing the hammer, which is causing all sorts of consternation for Joey, not being able to freely walk around the Dark World without that hammer.
Walking Eye with his silver arrows quickly dispatches Helmasaur.
And gets the boot for his troubles. That is a huge find for Walking Eye. And that opens up even more locations for him to check, and just allows him to have a little bit more pep in his step for the remainder of his seed. Also allowing him to full clear Desert Palace now as well, with that Desert Palace big key resting on that torch.
Oh, Miko, I understand what you're talking about now. Yeah, we didn't get a traditional introduction in the beginning. I'm Cobb, and the other voice is CD.
Yes, and again, I'd like to express my deepest apologies to you, Cobb, and to everyone else for my late arrival to this commentary work. Of course, it turns out the moment you decide to commit to something, Murphy's Law decides to come into play. So once again, I'm deeply sorry that I could not be here on time that I had committed to previously.
Oh, it's completely fine. We actually started a bit early, so not a problem.
So with that hammer, Easter Death Mountain is now available at long last for Walking Eye, and Walking Eye is wasting no time getting all of those items checked. This is probably going to be the last and final place with this high density of items. He did take a peek at the island chest location, or the island in the sky location, but was not attentive enough to catch it with the few pixels that Walking Eye seems to have just needed to determine what it was. Meanwhile, Joey is diving into Swamp on a prayer, hoping that against all odds, the hammer rests in the first chest location behind the bombable wall. We do not know what it contains. We do know, though, that it is not the hammer.
Now, if it's the hook shot, that might play well for him. It is a map.
That is not a hook shot. That is the furthest thing from a hook shot I can think of at this point. Walking Eye now in Paradox Cave. We'll see what the 7 chests are contained within. So far, just an error upgrade. He'll be going up the stairs and getting the other 5 chests.
Yeah, but considering there's 5 chests here. Then you have, I think he may have already done Spiral, but then you have at least 3 that he can access in the Dark World. Not to mention he can clear Turtle Rock. However, Laser Bridge would be out of logic because he doesn't have the lamp.
And in that Paradox Cave, Walking Eye did collect the Bombos Medallion, so that means Mire is now live for Walking Eye. However, still not in logic fully, as he still does not have the lamp. Rather, completion of Mire. The chests prior to your progression to Vitreous are absolutely logically in play at this point. And it looks like Joey may now be finally working his way to Pod. Certainly not a moment too soon for him. And let's see what the Hookshot Cave has for Walking Eye. So far, just a bomb upgrade. And that's all he'll be able to collect, as he does not have what that cave is named for in his possession. But he is able to bonk to that first chest. But that's all he'll be able to get. And it does look like, at the very least, Walking Eye will go ahead and activate the Turtle Rock entrance. We'll see if he decides to go ahead and take a step inside as well.
Well, I don't know about your experience with V29, but I've seen a lot of worth in there, and the hookshot's an item of convenience for that dungeon, but it is by no means required for anything in that dungeon.
No, it is not. It means a slower room on the right side of the opening phase of Turtle Rock, but you can still absolutely get past that door after lighting those 4 torches. You just have to go about it in a different pathing. But yes, absolutely, Turtle Rock can have the goods, if you will. It does mean Walking Eye would need to do a little bit more darkroom traversal if that lamp does not show itself in this dungeon. But so far, it seems like Walking Eye, that would not hinder him too much.
Yes, he would have to use hammer strats on Trinex. That can be tricky, but the hammer sword, or the hammer, does tempered sword damage. So if you time your hits right, it doesn't end up taking any more magic than a tempered sword.
Yeah, the real key with the hammer strats, in my experience, is dispatching the left half of Trinex before the ice head has enough time to throw a lot of ice down, because that can certainly make it very difficult to dispatch that last half before depleting your magic resources. But Walking Eye does have some potions in his arsenal, so he would have that backup if he does indeed decide to go all the way through Turtle Rock at this point in time, which would certainly make a lot of sense, as you do not want to double dip Turtle Rock if you don't have to.
Right, and he definitely has all the tools now. As we had talked about before, only about half this dungeon is going to potentially provide him with the items that he wants. After we get past the dark room, he's not going to find the hookshot, and he's not, well, I guess he could find the hookshot if the lamp is accessible without hookshot. I take that back.
Right. We are guaranteed to not find the lamp past the dark room, but beyond that, depending on how the progression of the seed ends up going. Anything else could potentially be there. There are a total of 5 items in Turtle Rock that are not specific to the dungeon, and most of the time, the majority of those items, if not 4, are all in Laser Bridge.
Yep, and he does have the mirror, so he can get a 6th item on Mimic Cave, which will be in Logic.
Indeed, and there's one of those 5 items in the bombs at the big key spot. Did have to spend a small key, which you are certainly more than welcome to do, but you will need to make sure you check all the locations leading up to this point. You do not want to have to backtrack to pick up a small key that you would have otherwise missed. And we do have Walking Eye making sure to face the right direction as he blows up this bombable wall on the way to a Mimic Cave check. Now, if Lamp is here, that is going to be some level of trolling, I would say.
So Joey tried to set up the bomb jump, but I think he's going to skip it this time, which, you know, we saw a lot of that in the Key Sanity tournament. I think it has a little less application in Randomizer, in normal Randomizer.
Yeah, absolutely. But Joey is, that might be a blessing in disguise for Joey, as it allows him to get to the hammer quicker than he otherwise would have had he successfully completed the so-called hammer jump. While Walking Eye descends to the final basement floor of Turtle Rock, he will be in the dark here, going through this room here. So we'll see how well he can do it. A couple of falls there, but he is now on his way to activating the switch and then taking the necessary pathing to get out of this darkened state.
Yeah, so especially to new runners, this dark room seems pretty intimidating, but really it's only a few movements, and you can memorize them if you just give it a little bit of work.
Yeah, or at the very least, you could have a map in front of you with the rune diagram. That is not disallowed in these seeds. You are more than welcome to have that resource at your disposal if you feel the need to have it. And Walking Eye picking up that necessary small key at the bottom Laser Bridge location, having a little bit of trouble here. He may feel it in his best interest to go ahead and bomb that exit to give himself a quick revival. Now that he's taken a little bit of damage here.
I believe he has a fairy.
Oh, does he? Okay. Well, that makes these movements a lot more sensible. There it is. Really nothing in the Laser Bridge worth getting that excited about outside of the needed small key. So Walking Eye will be on his way to a Master Sword Trinex fight, which will likely involve the hammer to do the damage in lieu of the Master Sword, as the hammer, as previously mentioned, does indeed have tempered sword levels of damage.
So Joey is on his way to Foot Locker to pick up some shoes. He will be mighty pleased to see those.
And we have Walking Eye entering the Trinex fight. Let's see how well he takes care of Trinex with the hammer. Looks like no trouble at all for the first of the two elemental heads, if you will. But spending a few more ice rod shots than he would like, but we'll see if he elects to utilize the blue potion at this point. He would like to go through this without needing it, but he does that have that as a backup if that does become a necessity. Blue potion successfully preserved from Walking Eye. He is on the final phase of the Trinix fight, which should be no problem with some well-positioned sword slashes. And hammer. Down goes Trinix. Meanwhile, Joey Mittens now dealing with King Helmasaur, which should pose little threats at this point. Joey Mittens will be able to dispatch him with a well-timed silver arrow shot once his armor has been removed, and there it goes, and there is the silver arrow equipped, and down goes King Helmasaur.
So if you're Walking Eye, where do you go now?
Let's see if he threads in a spike cave check while he's up here. Does not do so.
Looks like he's going to give Mire a go.
Absolutely. So at this point, it is all down to a hook shot find, and the lamp as well, logically speaking. However, it certainly appears that our runners will be skipping the lamp, provided they don't find it while they are looking for their hook shot. So here we have Walking Eye entering Mire. Just 2 items to be found in this dungeon, which more often than not you tend to find while you're on search for the big key. We'll see how Walking Eye decides to route this dungeon. Meanwhile, it looks like Joe. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. So Mire is one of those other tricky dark rooms, and we're gonna get to see if Walking Eye has practiced the basement of Mire.
Meanwhile, Joey Mitten's going to go ahead and put those silvers to use against the Armos Knights here, getting that cleared. Walking Eye has already completed Eastern Palace long before, but Joey Mittens is going to go ahead and get that taken care of at this moment in time.
So Walking Eye just found one of the 2 items in this dungeon, which is the shield. Not what he was looking for.
Certainly not. We see if Walking Eye can find either the big key. Oh, he is going to go ahead and collect that key and check this location here behind the blue switch. And yet another small key for Walking Eye. At this point, a little bit redundant. Walking Eye should have more than enough keys at this point to go to wherever he chooses in Mire from this point forward. Meanwhile, we have Joey Mittens collecting the Eastern Palace crystal, and that will be his 3rd crystal, while we have Walking Eye here on his way to potentially collecting his 5th crystal, provided he has indeed done enough practice of a potential dark Mire basement. I would absolutely not put it past the Seed to have the lamp in one of these final Mire locations prior to progressing on to Vitreous.
Cyclone, if he has 5 in its menu, then it has to be Desert Palace.
I may have miscounted, actually. I'm not sure. Do not take my word as gospel at this point. It is quite late for me, and I am prone to miscalling. So we'll see what we can go from here. It does look like Walking Eye will be progressing on to the basement, and we will see how well he can navigate yet another dark room for Walking Eye.
Yep, so while he's not going to find the item that he wants here in Mire, a crystal's a crystal.
Absolutely. You got to do it at some point. Walking Eye electing to use the Burnicane there to avoid taking any additional spike damage. And we'll see if he can go ahead and get that switch flipped over as well.
I like how the switches are little like night lights. You can always see them in the dark.
Absolutely. You'll take whatever sort of guidepost you can get, and those switches are absolutely a very nice reference point to have in your dark room exploits here. Joey Mittens taking care of Lamulus and getting the Desert Palace cleared, and it looks like he is progressing on to I don't know what he's doing at this point, but he is ascending Death Mountain yet again.
Joey has the hammer, so I think he's going to go do his right side check.
That's right. He does have the hammer indeed, and it looks like he will go into Spike Cave, something that Walking Eye elected not to do. Let's see if we have a hook shot in here potentially.
And with those silver arrows, Walking Eye made quick work of Viddy.
Just a heart container in the Spike Cave. That had the hook shot, that could have been a huge turn of events for Joey. However, it looks not the case, and he will go ahead and take a death here and go from there.
I think this is going to work out better for him because I think a save and quit will be a little faster anyways.
Certainly, and it looks like Walking Eye is now entering a Desert Palace at this point with the ability to knock the big key off its pedestal. So Walking Eye had not completed a Desert Palace, so we need to figure out exactly where what Walking Eye has completed, but it looks like he'll now get the Desert Palace crystal in within the next 5 minutes or so.
So Joey may run into a problem here on the right side of Death Mountain because he's going to want to go into Turtle Rock, but he's not. He doesn't have any magic. I believe that there is a magic pot somewhere in Super Bunny Cave, but I'm not positive about that.
There is half magic, however, at the island in the sky. So if he needs a magic refill that desperately, that's one way to do it.
It's like I talk and things happen. That's the commentator's, I guess, the gift in this point, huh?
Yep, with great power comes great responsibility. So, but in any case, we have Walking Eye now just at the penultimate room of the Desert Palace here. We'll be facing Landmulus here. And with the Fire Rod, with Silvers, he has any number of options available to him to dispatch this boss. He is quite over-equipped for Landmulus at this point. But just as before, how it seemed like the hammer was going to be the defining item of the seed, it turns out the hookshot has more to say about that, as that is really the item roadblocking our runners at this point in time. For all we know, it could be buried in Ganon's tower, potentially. So we'll just have to see if how troll the seed wants to be with its hookshot placement.
Now, I may be mistaken about the logic, but I think unless he were to find the key, the big key in the first 2 chests of Ice Palace, which I don't remember where it was.
I see. Yes, I'm trying to recall. I remember the first chest where you have to kill the 6 Pendragons in that ice room. That's southern of the 4 rooms that you have to go to. That just had 20 rupees in it. So the fact that Joey Mittens immediately left Ice Palace after the Freezor room, that might indeed put a stop to my Ganon's Tower thought there. But one way or another, this hookshot's going to have to find itself somewhere. It looks like Joey will be, well, I thought he was going to go and collect that half magic, but it looks like he's going to want to bonk to that first chest of the hookshot cave. However, he is picking up the pot rather than dashing into it. It looks like Walking Eye is on his way to Ganon's Tower at this point, collecting all 7 crystals. And we'll see if he can find a hookshot in there.
Oh, I was seeing the tracker wrong. Ice Palace looked like it was a crystal to me. I think that must be like Cold Stare's eye or something.
I see it too, actually, now. And yeah, I was... forgive my inability to recognize that Walking Eye has completed all 7 crystal dungeons and is now doing Ganon's Tower in the hopes that he finds a hookshot somewhere along with Ganon's big key. So we'll see if that is indeed where this hookshot has been placed or not. Walking Eye deftly using some bongs to access parts that you would otherwise need the hookshot for. Trying to do one final bomb jump to enter this northern room. I'm not sure. He's really only looking for the big key in this room. The hookshot logically could not be in this location he is attempting to bomb jump to, but the big key certainly could be, and he is trying to cut a corner here in the event that the big key is located in one of these 4 chests. He has seemingly collected every key but the big key in that room. Walking Eye will have to continue on to find either of the items of interest. Assuming that he cannot hover, he is going to need to find this hookshot in order to, at the very least, get beyond the second Moldworm fight.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't kind of like Dark Magician that and go to the right side, because you don't need the hook shot for the right side, and you actually can get to Armos Knights fairly easily without the hook shot.
Yeah, a little bit of a risk there, but Walking Eye, it looks like, was able to go ahead and quickly get to the Fire Snake room here. And we'll need to either perform another bomb jump here, or he will be at a dead end at this point. No problem for Walking Eye. He is continuing on through this left side progression, and will be on his way to the randomizer room, hopefully finding something of relative worth in one of those 4 chests.
That being said, we are yep, because there's no way to get to here from the right side, so we are only looking for a big key.
And nothing going for Walking Eye in that location, so at this point it's just Bob's chest and the Armos Knights, of which he could have accessed through the right side.
As I'm thinking about it, and correct me if I'm thinking incorrectly, but I actually think the hookshot can't be in here, because some of the crystal dungeons that we completed needed the lamp to get through.
That might be a valid point there. In the meantime, we have Walking Eye getting the another sword upgrade out of Bob's chest, and he is now facing the Armos Knights with some ice physics to boot. And there's the big key for Walking Eye. However, without the hook shot and presumably without hovering at his disposal, Walking Eye is still unable to complete the seed without a hook shot find. But he's going to check the big chest. Not often you see this checked, but unfortunately not having the hook shot, instead just a large arrow quiver upgrade. Thinking about your previous point, Cobb, I mean, assume it could be a matter that somehow the lamp has just been missed somewhere that could have been assessed. If that is the case, then it could be the matter that the hookshot is here, I would think. My logic savviness as far as this particular version is not what it could be, but man, where is this lamp and where is this hook shot? That's
this is definitely a complicated seed to follow with the logic. Not a question, no question about that.
Wherever the hook shot may be, it is not at the very least in the opening in the basement floors of Ganon's tower. Let's see if Walking Eye decides to go ahead and ascend Ganon's tower in the hope that he finds a hook shot prior to the Moldorm fight.
I think he's going to do the ever-dreaded tile room.
Yes, how could I forget? That may be me wanting to forget tile room, but it is still live, and man, if that's where our hook shot is, holy moly.
So Walking Eye using a nice little glitch here where if you activate the cape, grab a wall, and pull on it, you will not use any magic.
Basically, one brief way of putting this is we're seeing a huge illustration of how much Swamp is despised. Basically, I had the opportunity to check Swamp and some other pendant dungeons, but electing to go straight to Ganon's Tower, which I can't really blame him given the multitude of items contained within, but it's certainly assuming the worst of the seed, taking this dive into Ganon's Tower. But it looks like Walking Eye has enough of an advantage that even if it is not in this tower, that he still has the potential of taking the victory.
Most definitely, because I imagine that Joey's next move is going to be to Mire, depending on where Bombos was. I'm not exactly sure where we found that.
I'm trying to recall, and it is escaping me at this point. Maybe someone in the chat can give us an assist on that one.
Yeah, bonks are in logic, bomb jumps are not. So Mire requires either the boots or the hook shot, not both.
Indeed, a very important thing to know is that some seeds do definitely assume that you know that you can bonk to access certain locations. If I'm recalling correctly, I believe the very first race I ever raced of Randomizer and SRL required you to bonk to the first hook shot cave location, as well as having the hook shot in the firebar room of Ganon's Tower. So that was a nice rude awakening to my Randomizer exploits. Walking Eye electing to get the fairy from that bunny portal there, which causes these landless to all spawn at the same time. Walking Eye using that to his advantage, though, with a very well-timed and well-positioned spin slash, leading to a rather speedy dispatching of landless too. And we have Joey Mittens now navigating the laser bridge in his Turtle Rock clearing at this time as well. And we do have Walking Eye now with the gauntlet in his rear view mirror, now going to light up these 4 torches. He is just a few rooms away from getting the last chest that he can access at this point. And we will see if this pays off huge for him or if he's going to have to do a little bit of backtracking.
So if it's not up here, I mean, you got to go to Swamp. Either that or learn how to hover during the race.
I would assume the former, but I wouldn't put it past for at least Walking Eye to give it at least a go. Sight reading a hover would be quite a feat. Walking Eye has now just one last chest prior to officially being stymied.
So, yes, he despawned the dungeon, but... Oh, but it despawned the peg. Oh.
Now, do we know what caused that? Because that I am not familiar with this effect.
That is caused by the door closing, the door from the 4 torch room closing at the same time. I think it's at the same time as you open the other one.
Wow, that is an absolute unfortunate turn of events for Walking Eye. However, it may very well be a blessing with the hook shot in literally any other location other than the one that Walking Eye just was prevented from collecting. He is checking the spike cave now and does not find what he is looking for, just getting a heart container for his traversal of that spike cave.
Okay, I misspoke. It's thank you, chat. So it is when the lamps go out, but it's actually ascending to the next lamp room. If you step onto those stairs on the exact same frame as those torches go out, that's what despawns the rest of the dungeon.
Wow, that is certainly incredibly well. It is lucky, but Walking Eye would definitely consider this incredibly unlucky that that took place. He did check the bonk rots and now has a golden sword at his disposal now. So now checking King's Tomb. This just a number of overworld locations available with the Pegasus boots collected. They had not checked these locations as they were blocked from doing so, but just 5 rupees for Walking Eye in King's Tomb. We have Joey Mittens now entering Mire. He does have the Bombos tablet and will be collecting the locations and taking down Vitreous, presumably, provided he also has the ability to navigate Mire basement without the benefit of sight. And just as you foresaw, we do have Walking Eye presumably going into Swamp, saving that for the absolute last, electing to go to Ganon's Tower prior to a pendant Swamp check. Really goes to show you how despised Swamp is for a good lot of our participants in this tournament.
So it's clear to us that, assuming Joey Mittens doesn't find the hook shot in some place other than Swamp right after he gets out of Mire, that Walking Eye has a pretty good lead here. But if you're Walking Eye and you don't know this, what are you thinking right now?
You are freaking out right now, honestly. You are over 107 minutes into this race. You don't have the lamp or the hook shot. At this point, you just got to have faith in your routing that you haven't missed something. But the longer this goes, the more that doubt just foments in your mind that, did I miss something? Why is this lamp? Why is this hook? How do I not have it at this point? What is wrong with this scene? So Walking Eye, I have to imagine some variation of that has got to be going through his mind at this point. He's just got to fight through it and hope and trust in his ability that he hasn't missed anything. And I can't say that he really has, honestly. But the longer this goes, with you missing these basic of items in the lamp, especially, that just has to be creeping in your mind. And I should also point out, it's not so much as a despising of Swamp House, but without the hook shot, you are locked out of the back half of this dungeon, which is a good lot of the items in this dungeon. So leaving Swamp, a hook shotless Swamp certainly makes a ton of sense. But once again, we are scraping the bottom of the barrel for item locations at this point for this hook shot and or this lamp.
Yeah, if we don't find it here, Walking Eye might have to go to the blacksmith and commission them to make one.
At this point, it might be buried in ice, would be my guess if it is not here. We did see Joey Mittens dip into ice briefly, but only completed a small portion of that dungeon, as he did not have, obviously, the hook shot nor the hammer at the time. Certainly a good portion of ice also blocked by hook shot, but depending on how the keys are distributed, you may be able to work around having to go through that room with all the red jellies that would normally require the hook shot to pass.
Cyclone brings up a very good point, and I apologize. It's way past my bedtime, so I missed this obvious choice that it could be on Pyramid Fairy.
That's right. We have not seen the Pyramid Fairy checked, and with all the crystals collected, certainly that is open to Walking Eye at this point. I'm honestly a little bit. I had assumed that Walking Eye would have accounted for that. It might have behooved him to at least give that a check prior to taking the deep dive into Swamp, but that is still in play for Walking Eye if Swamp turns out empty for him.
You know, maybe his thought process is right after I do Swamp, I can go do Pyramid Fairy. Certainly. But after I do Pyramid Fairy, I have to go to the Dark World again.
That is a very valid point, actually, and we'll just see if Walking Eye goes right to the bomb shop after doing what he can in Swamp. We just have one more spot available to him in the right side, left side chest, or left side, right side chest, however you want to phrase it. And it is the hook shot! We have the hook shot for Walking Eye, not a moment too soon, buried in a hook shot required dungeon. My oh my, and Walking Eye is going to spend as little time as he needs retreating back to Ganon's tower so he can finally get this rather trolly seed over and done with.
Absolutely, and he's not going to be waiting for anything. I think this is a smart move, picking up, a little bit of safety. But he's going to head right up there. He does not have to go in the bottom portion. He's cleared it all. He is going straight to Aga 2.
Absolutely, and I'll be curious if we get to speak with Walking Eye after the match, what his what he's thinking right now. What does he feel about his chances of taking a victory at this point? Honestly, with a hookshot buried in a hookshot required dungeon, a pendant dungeon, no less, that he may feel that he might have this. It's hard to say, but having to doing Ganon's tower and retreating can't be a good feeling as either. So a very unique spot for our runners here, Walking Eye especially, but he just has to go through that ascension of Ganon's tower one more time on his way to Aga 2, on his way to Ganon, and at this point looking like on his way to a Week 2 victory. Meanwhile, on the right side of your screen, we have Joey Mittens now dispatching a Vitreous with some well-executed silver arrow shots. More than enough arrows to do this with plenty to spare, and down goes Vitreous for Joey Mittens, and that is his 7th crystal.
Sure is, and chat's asking about Lamp. Lamp is only in it can only be in 2 locations. It's either in the second half of Swamp or on the right side of Ice Palace or on Cold Stair. That is all that's left. We've seen everything else.
Walking Eye taking a few hits from those spikes. It's quite challenging to get through that room without taking some level of damage. But Walking Eye has plenty of resources at his disposal. He's going straight back to the gauntlet for round 2 of the gauntlet. Meanwhile, Joey Mittens finding his tempered sword at the Bonk Rocks. So he is going to have his sword situation nice Nicely handled. That's really all you need. Getting that upgrade from Master to Tempered is the huge thing that you're looking for. Once you get Tempered, the Golden Sword upgrade, while nice, is by no means that significant compared to the jump in damage and simplicity of the Ganon fight once you have a level 3 sword. Meanwhile, Walking Eye on the latter phases of the Gauntlet will face Landmo 2. I guess now technically Landmo 3 for Walking Eye.
So now I know that Walking Eye is very knowledgeable about this game. I gotta imagine that he's gonna make sure those torches are either out or very, very lit when he steps up those stairs again, because I'm pretty sure he knows how everything got despawned. In case Chad is wondering, the only way to fix that is to restart the dungeon.
Meanwhile, with all 7 crystals collected, Joey Mittens at this point in time is not doing the ambitious Ganon Tower dive. He is looking to check some additional locations here. Is he heading for Swamp? If so, that will definitely be to his benefit here. Certainly gain some time on Walking Eye. Probably not enough at this point, but it is the quote-unquote correct play. But it looks like he's going to go ahead and do a Pyramid Fairy check first.
Yep, Walking Eye definitely waited for that door to close before he went up the stairs again. Yeah, so if I'm Walking Eye, there is no way that I'm opening this next chest. I gotta feel that Joey Mittens is on Ganon, and he's just wondering why is he not, done? Why is he not done yet? Because he's got to figure that Ganon Tower move was bad.
Absolutely, but again, given how crazy some of these items positions are, you may have some seed of hope that maybe you can still take this. You certainly will, but that's because we have the benefit of seeing both these runners in succession.
Walking Eye with the triple.
Oh, baby, a triple. Just a single, though, for the next cycle. Let's see if he can dispatch him in this with a double here. Oh, despawning that fire from Agnum there. It's going to take one more cycle. Down he goes. That must not have been a triple, actually. It must have only counted 2 there in that first cycle. Unfortunate for Walking Eye. But Aga 2 subsequently dispatched. Walking Eye will be taking flight and headed toward the pyramid to face Ganon once and for the final fight and the conclusion of his seed.
So this is going to take a little less than a minute and a half, most likely, because it's only going to take 6 hits in the first 2 phases with the Butter Sword.
And there's phase 1. He'll be waiting to slash him until Ganon starts spinning his trident. There's phase 2 underway, and there's 6 slashes just like that. On to phase 3 for Walking Eye. Walking Eye getting his fire rod ready to hopefully get a torch glitch activated, but certainly not going to be the end of the world if he misses that.
Yeah, typically when you have silvers, your priority is going to be on getting at least 1 silver hit off immediately.
Absolutely.
Oh, and if he, no, he was kind of out of position because of that fireball, but he was in a position that he could have gotten a double if that fire bat wasn't in the way.
Absolutely. Maybe he'll get a double here. 1 and 2. That is Ganon down for Walking Eye just past the 2-hour mark. GG to Walking Eye. A very respectable time given how crazy the certain items in the seed were placed.
Absolutely. And it's not that Joey made bad decisions. It's just that things were in weird places and the dice did not work in his favor today.
Indeed, that just happened. I'm sure Walking Eye is... I'm not sure there's a space big enough to contain the eye roll that Walking Eye might have given that text to respond to the finish here. But Walking Eye will take week 2 and improve his record here to 1-1, I believe. This is a 0-1 race, if I'm recalling correctly.
That is correct. He is 1-1 at this point.
So we'll see if Walking Eye will join us for an interview shortly. Meanwhile, we have Joey Mittens. He doesn't realize it, but he is well on his way to collecting the hook shot that he is looking for. And at that point, he will likely make a beeline for the tower.
And I think we have Walking Eye with us now. Congrats on the wins. GG, what do you think about that seed?
I died and escaped, man. This is awful. It was not a good start, but I managed to calm down, and it was a good seed. I like that seed. I like being able to gamble like that going to Ganon's Tower, even though it didn't pay off. I've never despawned Ganon's Tower in my life, so that was a fun experience to do. If the hookshot was in that last chest there, I was gonna throw my console out the window. But
I was thinking about that.
out.
Oh gosh, I probably would have broken a controller if the hook shot was there.
Yeah, I was about to say you have a very interesting definition of fun if despawning Ganon in that particular situation is considered fun, but indeed it did not turn out to be that catastrophic of a turn of events here. We see Joey now about to get to the left side here and get that hook shot that he is looking for. But yeah, again, let me echo Cobb there. Very well played. A lot of interesting decisions to be made in that seed, and yeah, very well done, man. Good job.
I appreciate it. Do you guys have any idea where the lamp was?
No, Joey Mittens has not found the lamp. I would have to assume somewhere buried in Ice Palace, most likely, but
Ice Palace certainly seems likely. And you're right, Joey Mittens is a very talented runner, so make sure everybody watching, give that guy a follow. He put up a heck of a fight. This is a weird seed. Anybody could have won this seed. I've been looking at my my timer in game for his dot done, and for the past half hour or so. After going to Pod, finding that hammer, I thought I was dead because Pod had all the goodies. And I thought, it would have been obvious to go to Pod early, but I guess he didn't do that, or what happened there?
Yeah, I believe you were the first to attempt Pod, well ahead of Joey. I'm trying to recall the exact sequence of events, but no, you were the first to handle Pod, and yeah, that definitely opened up the world for you until the hookshot roadblock occurred. But yeah. That was definitely a defining moment in this seed for sure.
And I was counting in my head after I had go mode, except for the hook shot. I was counting, and I counted about 13 items in the overworld and dungeons that I was skipping out on. I was counting 4 for Swamp at the time. And we get 22 where the big chest, where the big key can normally be in Ganon's Tower, plus 1 for the big chest, plus 3 upstairs that I have access to. So it seemed like 2/3 shot of it being in Ganon's Tower and that gamble paying off, but obviously it didn't. Thankfully, I was able to rely on my routing and execution to get me the win anyway.
Oh, absolutely, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Now, did you have trouble thinking through the logic about, okay, I've done a lot of sequence breaks, where... Like, can I go to Ganon's Tower? Is that outside the logic because of the lamp? Do you have trouble following any of that?
No, I have thankfully taken the time to study the logic for situations like this. If it was on the left side, if it was somewhere where I had to do a bomb jump, then it wouldn't. If the big key was somewhere where I had to do a bomb jump, then the hookshot was going to be outside of Ganon's tower. But it ended up being at Ice Armos, and Ice Armos you can get to without the hookshot via the right side. So it was fully in logic for the hookshot to be somewhere upstairs in Ganon's tower.
Absolutely, yeah. We were talking about that, and it's one thing for people watching to come to that conclusion, but when you got the pressure of the race, it's very impressive that you were able to keep that down.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate you guys commentating so late at night. I'm guessing by your accents, you're probably not European, so thank you for staying up until 1 a.m. with me. I'm looking to go to bed pretty soon. Give Joey Mittens a follow, everybody, please. And I know that's the commentator's job to say that, but I'm also going to say give the commentators a follow. I'm stealing everybody's job. Give everybody a follow. This tournament doesn't happen on its own.
At this late hour, I will gladly forego commentator responsibilities to you, Walking Eye. Thank you very much, and thanks for being such a great sport, and thanks again for giving me the opportunity to watch your fantastic play in this seed. Once again, a job very well done. This is quite the cruel seed, but you handled it quite deftly, and congratulations, a well-deserved win.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to go sleep. I'm going to go sleep after these credits are done. So thank you guys again, and GG's to Joey. Pass on my GG's once he's done, which I'm sure will be soon.
Absolutely. Enjoy your rest. Very well deserved, and good luck in your future races. At this point, okay, we're now back on Joey Mittens here, who will now be progressing through the right side, Ganon's tower, and we'll see if he can't get the job done here.
Unfortunately, while I myself am a right side person, he's gonna get the key as the 22nd item. Which is not what he wants right now. He's tired, I'm sure. Yeah, with the V29 logic, the average time of a seed has gone way down, and the runners know this, and so when they're looking at 2 hours and 8 minutes into a seed in V29, they are mentally exhausted, and it's just been a cruel seed.
No doubt about it here. Depending on your caliber of a player, you may not be spending a lot of time with seeds 2 hours or more on a seed, but this seed's certainly a seed that would be quite the tall task to get a sub 2 on this seed. Walking Eye just shy of that, which again, very impressive, I have to say, all things considered. I was not aware that he had died at escape, unfortunately. He could have kept me in the dark in that one, as it were, but looks like that was not a big issue for Walking Eye at this point. So,
yeah, they actually had a bombs opening, and he basically ended up taking a bomb to the face that was meant for the guard.
Yeah, I meant to ask it earlier on. When I joined, all I could determine it was either a bomb or a bow seed, and once he said that he died, I find it hard to believe that a runner of Walking Eye's caliber would have died with the bow as his first item, but I'm sure crazier things have happened at this point. Meanwhile, we have Joey able to get to that chest the traditional way with the hook shot, whereas Walking Eye had to bomb jump to it as he was still searching for a hook shot at this point of his Ganon's Tower exploits. Joey Mittens now entering the randomizer room. He will not find the key there, unfortunately, but just further clearing out Ganon's Tower.
See, and Joey taking a fall right there is that's we're seeing complete mental exhaustion there. That has nothing to do with his skill level. He's done this part 1,000 times and practiced it. He's just tired, and I 100% understand. I give him a lot of credit for finishing out. He doesn't have to. It doesn't affect him. Oh, that's the worst.
Oh, Joey is really now hoping that the big key is not at Bob's chest. No big key there to Joey's benefit. However, there was a sword there, so we may see Joey Mittens go through this with just the tempered sword, as he has unknowingly deprived himself of the gold sword.
From what I saw at startup, I think that I think chat's asking. I think that Joey also plays on console, but I don't completely remember.
Yep, both consoles and approved emulators are fair game for Link to the Past Randomizer running. But in any case, here we've got Joey now with the big key in his possession. Will begin his ascent to Ganon's Tower, through Ganon's Tower, and mercifully putting an end to this seed for him.
So anyone that's interested in getting involved in Randomizer, thanks, Cyclone. That'll work. The website that Cyclone just posted is really beautiful. It has a great startup guide that tells you how to get the emulator. It tells you how to create the seeds. Really gives you everything that you need. And I'll actually give a shout out to WalkingEye, because most of the verbiage and proofreading is done by him. So the reason that website looks as great as it does and is as helpful as it is because of WalkingEye.
Certainly grateful to him and all the contributing members of the Link to the Past Randomizer community, which is quite a roster of individuals. A wonderful community of runners and contributors of all sorts. If you are interested in this and have never attempted a randomizer seed, there is absolutely nothing preventing you from giving it a try. It may be a little bit difficult to get it under your to get a grasp of it at the start, but do not let that deter you. There is a lot of fun in figuring out the seemingly infinite puzzles that the randomizer can provide you. So if you've played Link to the Past before, or even if this would be your first time playing the game, feel free to give this a try. It is certainly, there's a reason 512 people have signed up for a tournament, a 7-week-long tournament, for sure.
Yeah, you know, and maybe somebody from chat can clip this, but I swear I just saw a silver arrow sticking out of the head of one of the Landmolas. But the land mola wasn't dead. Don't actually have Twitch pulled up, or I would clip it, but maybe I'm just seeing things. It's possible.
I wouldn't put it past this game once for 1 second to have some sort of sequence occur to allow the land molas to cheat death like that. But I did not catch it, but it is quite late, so something that fine of a detail would be a tall task for me to catch at this point in time. Joey, recognizing he will need an additional key in order to get to Moldorm 2, so he dispatches that mini Helmosaur and will be on his way to facing Moldorm 1 last time, prior to navigating the last few rooms of Ganon's Tower prior to facing Agnem. Joey just barely avoiding an unfortunate fall with his sword pulled out, and with that, Moldorm has been dispatched one last time, and we'll see if Joey decides to check this last chest. He does, in hopes for perhaps another sword. We do know that that is not the case. It was a piece of heart in that final location.
So it looks like we have an amazing day of racing tomorrow on all of the Speed Gaming channels and Link to the Past Randomizer channels. Wow. I'm not counting all of these, but I'm estimating there are about 40 to 50 races tomorrow.
That sounds about right. Definitely no shortage of opportunities to catch more randomizer action. Honestly, it's going to be that way for probably the next 3+ months, honestly, because this is just the Swiss stage. We still have a 128-man bracket stage after the 7-week Swiss stage completes about 5.5 weeks from this current moment in time.
It actually looks like shortly after our conclusion here on Speed Gaming, Jigheart and Azrael Speed are going to be facing off. And at 2 o'clock, for those late night fans, SM By and Christopher Warkin are going to be facing off.
Yep, so feel free to take a look at either of those races. Either of those will be on for your nightcap of randomizer action. After those 2 races conclude, we will take a brief respite, get some sleep, and wake up nice and early for an 8 a.m. start between the match between Ida and Hexmage. Meanwhile, Joey Mittens is going to emphatically answer Ganon's question of whether or not he found the silver arrows in the light world, with 4 of those silver arrows directed at Ganon's face. Joey not activating the torch glitch, instead waiting for Ganon to teleport to a convenient location for him to quickly fire off both those torches. And he takes a death. Does he still have a fairy? No, he does not. And that is an unfortunate death for Joey. Just salt in the wound at this point.
Yeah, so that Ganon, even with the blue mail, if you touch Ganon, he will do 4 hearts of damage to you. Oh, yeah.
And a quick 1-2 combo on Joey for a second death to Ganon. Man, I really feel for Joey. I can only empathize. No matter how many seeds you may run, Ganon can always end up being one last troll for you to deal with. And it's certainly proving a little bit of difficulty here for Joey trying to put the finishing touches on his race. But nice positioning for Joey here with that Ganon location that allows him to take advantage of the location of Ganon's spinning and get in some slashes there. However, he's taking some damage for the fire bats, and he is down to one last hit before falling for a third time.
You know, and I know I keep saying this, but when we're saying that, you know, this is a very good runner, that at the end of these seeds, something that you have practiced thousands of times, like Ganon, it can be difficult. You're just so mentally spent.
Yes, I want to absolutely emphasize, I do not wish to come off as any critical of Joey or questioning in any way his ability whatsoever. Ganon can pose a problem for even the most experienced of runners. And woof, Joey just barely avoiding taking
get double there. Yep. Oh, I really thought he had the double there.
Certainly had it set up, but just one more arrow will be all Ganon will take. And barely missing, freezing him, but this should do it. Ganon has been finally dispatched. Joey Mittens completes his this seed in just under 2 hours and 23 minutes. GG to Joey Mittens. It is in a losing effort, but honestly, just finishing the seed is an accomplishment in and of itself.
Good for him. I mean, he didn't even know where the hook shot was when Walking Eye finished, and he still elected to finish, which is really strong.
Neither runner collecting a lamp in this. I mean, I myself am fair. That is a major hole in my game. Dark rooms. I would have been up a creek if I were served this seed. So props to both of these runners for completing it without the benefit of the lantern. And again, both these runners very skilled, and both are deserving of a follow if you are willing to provide it to them. We'll see if Joey is going to take the time to join us for an interview, and we'll just go from there.
So Cyclone went ahead and counted. There are 61 races tomorrow, and 43 of those are starting after 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, if you guys are not following those runners, you need to be.
No shortage of runners in this tournament, with all of 512 participating in this tournament. But feel free to give these guys your support with a follow if you would like. In addition to all of the speed gaming and Link to the Past Randomizer network channels as well. If you want to keep an eye on the goings on of this tournament, feel free to give these channels a follow, and you will have all kinds of randomizer content at your fingertips. So as we see the credits for Joey Mittens, I want to again thank my co-commentator Kablalala with me here, and I want to thank our tracker Cyclone. Very nice job. Thanks so much for your services and keeping an eye on our competitors' collections, and thank all of you watching us, still sticking with us. Thanks so much for your time and allowing for us to share this race with you, and thanks for choosing this race as your evening or morning entertainment, depending on where you may find yourself.
Yep, I'm just checking with Joey right now if he wants to come in.
I would certainly not hold it against him if he declined the interview. This was certainly quite the taxing experience, to be sure.
Let me see if he's coming to channel. I don't see him. I did send him a message, but I completely understand if he just basically finished and was done with it. I would be.
Yeah, this is one of those seeds where you just, once you get that final Triforce room, you just drop your controller and go for a walk, get something to drink, just do anything other than look at your monitor at that point, because you would want to distance yourself from this seed at your earliest of opportunities. So with this result, walkingeye will even out his record at 1-1. He will be a part of the set of 256 people who will be at 500 at a 1-1 record at the conclusion of week 2. Joey Mittens unfortunately falling to 0-2. He is by no means out of this tournament, but he is going to be faced with the tall task of winning 5 in a row to guarantee his advancement to the bracket stage of this tournament. Certainly not out of the question, but not the position you want to be in after 2 games, to be certain.
Yeah, definitely not. My understanding is that all of those that are 5-2 will advance, and I imagine that there's a possibility for some people that are 4-3. I really haven't done the math on that.
Yeah, I'm not. It depends on how many people are guaranteed a bracket spot, because if I recall correctly, the bracket is going to be an 128-man bracket stage. And I did do the math. After 7 rounds of Swiss, you will have 4 runners at a perfect 7-0 record. You will have 28 players at a 6-1 record, and 84 will have a record of 5-2. So doing the math, that comes out, if I'm doing this correctly, to about 116 of our tournament participants will have a record of 5-2 or better after the 7 weeks have concluded. So depending on how many people are guaranteed a bracket position based on their previous tournament performances, that leaves a small handful of potential spots for those with a 4-3 showing.
Okay, so yeah, actually 128 is the total. The top 8 from the primary tournament in the fall and the top 4 in the secondary were all guaranteed spots.
So that rounds out the 12 tickets into the bracket. So indeed, that leaves those that are 5-2 or better will earn their ticket to the bracket phase. 4 and 3 will not do it. Although honestly, that's my personal expectation for myself, is to be 4 and 3. But 5 and 2 is what it will take to go beyond this initial 7-week stage.
All right, so it looks like Joey has decided that he's going to get some rest, and I do not blame him. He's going to pass on an interview. I do appreciate you all joining us. It's been another crazy day of Randomizer, especially this seed, and it's only going to get crazier. So definitely keep tuning in. And I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for commentating with me, Seedy.
My pleasure. Again, thanks for dealing with my brief absence there, and it was truly an honor and a pleasure to commentate this with you, man, and hopefully we get to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Have a good night, everyone.